whitetail hunters might think I'm plumb crazy because I'm out walking around this open grasslands country with plum thickets in it. You see a little bit of the plum, but scattered throughout this Kansas grassland, there are thickets of native plum brush. Not real high, so you can see this stuff. Probably 3 feet high to 4 feet high. The reason I tell you this is because big whitetails bed in this stuff. And a lot of people don't want to believe it or just don't even consider it, I guess. But I've got a Kansas buddy, the only Boone and Crockett buck he ever shot, he found it bedded in a plum thicket in the middle of a pasture. Another friend, he's got a bigger Boone and Crockett buck. He found it bedded in a plum thicket in a pasture. My probably biggest buck ever came out of a plum thicket in a pasture, and several others like it. We just find them out there all the time. Now, I think the reason is they're isolated. As long as the pasture doesn't have cattle in it, and there's nothing that's going to disturb them, rather than bed in a forest or a shelter belt or what we would think of as good whitetail habitat with lots of trees, to get away from all the does and the fawns and the distractions and the trouble, those bigger bucks just like to get out into a big, open, isolated pasture like this and find a little thicket and bed in that because nobody bothers them. They get to sleep all day without any hassle. And I think that's the biggest reason they're out there. The second reason is during the rut, they also like to stay away from activity, and they'll chase the does until they can hold them up in a thicket like this. So quite often you will find the big bucks and does out in no man's land like this, isolated. So a good way to hunt is to get high and glass all these things. Early in the morning, you'll see them moving into the thickets. Just this morning, I was working out of a blind, but as I watched, doe and 2 fawns came over a little sand ridge, and they bedded in the thicket right beside my blind within 130 yards of me. Stuff like that happens all the time. So get out in the open, ease your way through it, glassing, just keep watching all the time, and you can stalk those deer. You can spot them coming, you can intercept them, and when they bed, you can move in and probably get within bow distance of them a lot of times. They'll hold up so tight, so just get the wind in your favor, move in, you do pretty well, and you're not plumb crazy. Well, here I sit, pumpkin in the Milo patch. This is a crazy idea I have. I am sitting on the edge of a Milo field, which borders a wheat field. I'll spin this around so you can see that. And across there are those trees, sort of the bedding area. We saw 2 good bucks in there yesterday evening. They came out of there and then they went past this long shelter belt of trees. And there are green wheat fields on either side. And our blind, the outfitter has a blind way down south at the other tree strip, half a mile away. And he's got a bait pile down there, a corn feeder. And last night, as is usually the case in my experience, the does and the young bucks came out, but no big ones. I have never seen a big buck at a feeder. It's not to say they don't go there. Obviously they do, or guys wouldn't keep using them. And this particular outfitter, he gets a lot of big bucks every year. His bow hunters just take 150 to 170 bucks. And a member of our party just this morning in a stand took a 163 buck that had some points broken off. He'd have been all together, he'd have been a 170. So it works. And if that's your style of hunting, go for it. But I just don't enjoy it. And I like to be able to move. So the reason I've set up like this, because I am pretty much in the crossroads of where 2 came across right there last night. They came out of those trees, crossed this wheat field, went down along that tree strip. And I couldn't see this side of the tree strip, but the green field over here really looks nice. So I thought I would pick a position in which I could look down that in case they came out of that tree strip to feed. And I also noticed one crossing the field behind me right through this Milo field. So I thought I'd sit here and be able to catch them in any of these places and be able to probably move and stalk. So I could sneak over to those trees and run down the line that way. Or if something pops up really good way down on those other trees by the feeder, Here comes the jet. Hang on. Fighter jets come through this area a lot. That's the third one in 15 minutes. So if something comes out down there in the feeder, way out there, a half mile away, I can easily get over the edge of that strip, just along that fence line, and stalk, even though I can't get behind the fence. Just having the fence as my background and moving slowly, I've discovered over the years that when one gets in a fence line in your vertical, like the fence posts, they will mistake you for a fence post if you're not moving quickly. So I'll just watch the deer move when they're not looking and ease my way down. I should be able to get within 300 yards of them. Anyway, that's the plan. But first of all, we have to actually see some. So I'm going to sit tight here. Got my rifle, got my shooting sticks, got my pack behind me, using it for a bit of a rest. So we await developments about an hour and a half until sunset. And the weather is really cooperative. It's 75 degrees on December 2nd. Whoa. But that's another thing. It's been my experience that these deer continue to do what they do seasonally, regardless of the temperature. They might not be quite as active, but when it's breeding season, that's set by the clock. The sun determines that. And when a doe is in estrus, the buck is going to respond. He's not going to wait for next week, because next week won't happen. So, got my fingers crossed. Wish me luck. My first customer is a skunk. That is Nosler's Accubond long range, 142 grains. It's going 2,970 feet per second out of this rifle. By the way, this outfit, Tall Tines Outfitters, really has a good program for trophy bucks. The manager owner, Ted Jaycock, does not allow his clients to take anything smaller than a 150 class buck. That means 150 inches of antler. That means essentially a 4-year-old. You'll sometimes find a 3-year-old that big, but essentially what he's doing is letting his bucks grow up, getting some age on them. Boy, it really pays off. I'll show you some heads mounted in the farmhouse he operates out of as an example, and also some photographs he has on the wall of clients and their bucks from over the years. But he's been consistently taking his good quality bucks now for a long, long time. I'll have to ask him how long he's been in operation here, but I'll bet you it's getting close to 15, 20 years maybe. So that's the key. It's not genetics or minerals. It's age and nutrition. And of course, in farm country like this, where you've got milo fields and wheat fields and plenty of water, there's the food for those deer. And if you know anything about Kansas, you know they've got the genetics for big bucks. So it's just a matter of letting them grow up. 4-year-old deer is starting to come into his own. 5-year-old has really got some potential to max out. Somewhere between 5 and 7 years old is when they reach their peak generally. And if they've got good nutrition, they can maintain strong antler growth right up until 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. And they do get that old out here. I got one years ago that was 13 and a half years old. So that's the key to big bucks. Now all we've got to do is find one. Well, I don't have much light anymore, but just thought I'd finish up the evening. The deer came off of the western horizon. There's a sand sage prairie out there on the west side of that green wheat field, kind of where I thought they might come from. They just love bedding out in that open stuff rather than in the forests and the big trees. I just pretty much always find them coming in off of the plum thickets and or the sand sage or big grasslands like that. So I've got an idea for the morning of where to be. There were 13 does and one buck that was pretty close. He was 800 yards away, but he was skylined. He looked like a 4x4, tall tines, maybe just past his ears. A little tough to tell, but May come back looking for him tomorrow. And that sums it up for this evening. Beautiful, beautiful evening in Kansas. No wind. That is extremely rare. Well, I told you I didn't like stands, and I especially don't like tree stands, but here I am, well up in a tree at the behest of my outfitter, Ted. And Ted said that this area is really good because it's a crossing. It's right on a creek, and they follow the creek up and down, of course, and going to and from feed fields. And he was as good as his word, because I just saw, probably half a dozen does and 3 bucks, a couple of young bucks with good antlers, a 5x4 and one with broken antlers. I filmed both of them. And then Turkeyfoot came along, and this was a deer that Ted had on camera, on trail cams, and it had a kind of a 3-prong right there coming off of the main beam right at the tip that looked like a turkeyfoot in profile. If I'm not mistaken, I just shot Turkeyfoot. Came along the edge of the creek there, taking his time and feeding as he went. And I got quite a bit of time to look him over, and I thought, that looks like Turkeyfoot.
That's Turkeyfoot.
So I shot him, and now I hope it's Turkeyfoot. We'll get down and find out here real quick. But yes, indeed, stands can work if they're in the right place on a travel route like this one up and down a creek. Bingo. Much as I hate to sit and wait, paid off this time. Well, we're in the next to final act. Trimming off the meat from the remnant bones. And then we're going to be grinding hamburger. We're already wrapping up steaks and roasts and putting them away. But yeah, this is the end of the season taking care of the game meat part. Not quite as exciting as being out doing it, but just as satisfying. And of course, this is what allows us to make the delicious meals that my wife prepares mainly, unless it's chili. I'm sort of the chili guy around here.